Hello, my loves. Hello, hello, hello. My name is Dustina. This is Spiritual Boujee Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits of September 15th to September 21st. Now, before we do have a recap, breakdown, or anything along these lines, a quick little reminder for everybody that I am running a special all month long for eclipse season to get one-on-one sessions with me at a discounted rate. And one of the things I keep saying about this is that this will be the last full monthly special that I will run this year. All you have to do is go to the website, www.thespirituallyboujee.com, go to astrological services, look for the eclipse season, big highlighted one. It should be the very first one there. An hour-long session with me has been discounted down to $35. A 90-minute session has been discounted down to $50. It's not a huge discount, but it still counts for people that are very, very budget friendly. If you're wanting to even book for future dates, like you can book all the way up to, I think, 9 months in advance. This is the time to take advantage of that. I promise you, because future specials and future pricing will be changed. So take advantage of the discounts that I'm offering. Okay, moving along. Over the last week, I said it before, like where there's a momentum, there's a buildup, there's certain things coming through. And over the course of the weekend, we had a Mercury cazimi. Mercury came into the heart of the sun. And for a lot of people, the Mercury cazimi was a revealing of an idea, a thought, information, a revealing of a certain person. It was almost like a debut for certain people. But it wasn't like, this is the love of your life debut. It's like, I could totally chill with you. I could hang with you. I can understand you. For some people, the person that came through or the information that came through, it triggered nerves. It triggered deep things within because we have this other stewing vibration now of we're trying to do new things and we do have new things going on, but the past keeps lingering. Something is going on below the surface. The thing about this week is the below the surface thing is gonna get heavier. It's gonna get trickier. It's going to be more dominant, in some ways, in your face dominant, in very some ways. And it'll be very specific to one particular day, if that's going to be, well, I can say that 2 particular days, if that's going to be the case. I feel like it's going to be more present in someone's face once we get through the Virgo eclipse. And the Virgo eclipse is how we end this week. Yay. We're going to end this week on a high note, per se. There's a lot of activity to this week. There is a lot of mercurial transits. Mercury rules our logical brain, the way that we think about things, the way that we process things. There's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of things being spoken, a lot of things being communicated, a lot of things being written about, a lot of things being drawn up. Very logical vibration going on. Okay, logic brain wise. Some people are not always logical, but that is a very different conversation. The other part of the transits this week is very heavy with the lunar side, which is the moon. And the moon rules our intuitive side. It rules our empathic side. And there is this mixed vibration of like, I'm trying to do these things that make sense. And if I can get them to make sense, they're going to make me feel happy. They got to give me the happy. That's got to be the plan. So I'm trying to put all these things together. And no matter how much we try to get things going, there is something boiling below the surface. Now, some of you already have an idea, like you keep feeling it. Somebody's going to get sick. There's got to be an accident. Something is going to happen. Some of y'all got that sneaking suspicion in your gut, like you ain't acting right. I think you're doing something. I don't think something is real. I think something is a lie. And it's really starting to stick in your gut. And no matter how much you're trying to be busy over here, every so often, tink, there's a trigger, tink, there's a little click. Like, what is that? Why is that? And we keep having this teetering vibration of like, I'm trying to focus on something new. Why are you acting this way? Why are you hitting my buttons? And there's something there. Now, whenever it comes to the vibration of this week, put a pin in that because we're going to come back to it. There's a lot of things that start to give us like a precursor to what we're going to see in the Virgo eclipse. Now, the Virgo eclipse, again, is going to be exact on Sunday, but then there's going to be some immediate energies that work around with the eclipse. So through Saturday, through Sunday, into Monday, into Tuesday and Wednesday of the next week. That's why I'm saying we're going to end this week episode wise on a high note. But we're going to get a precursor to that based off of Mercury. Because Mercury on September 18th is going to enter Libra. Before Mercury enters Libra, it will go through the opposition to Saturn. It will cross over what will become the eclipse point, and then move into the opposition to Neptune, trying to Pluto, trying to Uranus. Very ding, 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 busy, busy, busy activation vibration. And I feel like it is a foreshadowing, it is a precursor to what we will be dealing with by the end of the week and what we will be dealing with at the start of next week. Why do I say that? Because Mercury rules where the eclipse is going to be. So Mercury is going to give the precursor, the pre-shadow vibration. I say shadow as in like foreshadowing. That's what I meant. Foreshadowing vibration to whatever we're going to start to deal with, whatever we're going to start to focus on. Now, for some people, that is going to go well. And for other people, whatever we start to focus on, no matter how hard we try to get something going, there's going to be this lingering vibration that keeps bubbling up to the surface. Now, why am I saying that? At the end of last week's episode, I started talking about one of those secret transits. Now, if you haven't listened to me for a long time, you're going to be learning about these for the first time. But some of you, you've heard me talk about these before, but I pay attention to them in transits, unlike most readers, because I've seen them play out way too often. And that is what is known as anticias and contra-anticias. If I was to fold the chart at certain areas of the sky, specifically on the equinox lines and the solstice lines, that would be the start of Libra, the start of Aries, the start of Cancer, the start of Capricorn. If I was to fold the charts in certain areas, certain planets would lay on top of each other, and mathematically, they would equal 30 degrees. And they are either known as an anticia, which would be a secret opposition, or a contra-anticia, which would be like a secret alliance. There's going to be a lot of secrets based off of these types of transits that are embarking below the surface, behind the scenes. Now, for some people, because Neptune is a big part of this, there is some type of belief, there is some type of faith, there is some type of manifestation for some people, there is some type of symptom for others that is really pressing into the energy. But the thing is it's not being seen clearly. We haven't had a full spectrum saying, oh yeah, this is the problem. But there's been hints of it. Something isn't feeling right. Something isn't acting right. Someone isn't acting right. And there's this lingering vibration. In addition to that, we also have the heaviness of Saturn. Because one of the secret transits that is actually launching us into this week, it was the most back on Sunday, but it is a big part of this week. And I even saw elements of it in the news last week, building to the exactness. And that's the anticia between Neptune and Saturn. Saturn is rules, law, policies, people in positions of power, our elders, authority figures. And there's a very fueled belief that is starting to impact authority figures. You in your regular daily life can be an authority figure. And there can be certain things that are starting to impact and fuel a certain belief within us. There is something going on below the surface that has the ability to be triggered and manifested into actual reality between this week and next week. Now, for some people, it can go well. For other people, it can be a real big pain in the ass. Just being real with you. Now, I'm not fond of Neptune. I'm really not. There are other people out there, they're like, oh no, Uranus is the worst, Saturn is the worst, Pluto is the worst. These guys are a lot more clear definition than Neptune. Because anytime I explain Neptune, I really feel like I'm just throwing words against the wall and we're going to see what sticks. But it really kind of comes down to where we've been over the last few months with Neptune and Aries and how it has found its way in manifesting. Now, sometimes with Neptune, there can be the creativity, the spirituality, there can be the imagination, and there can be this like escapism energy, and it can speak to things that bring faith and healing. But I'm going to give it a good 30% of the time. That's a very generous number. The other 30%, Neptune has to do with health. And it can have to do with addictions and how that impacts your health. It can have to do with symptoms, but not easily explained symptoms. We're having a little bubble go on, but we can't necessarily pinpoint why that would be. There can be impacts to your feet, your blood sugars, your lymphatic system. There can be little things in the body that are starting to show themselves to you. Or you can see them in another person and you can just recognize that something ain't right. Or they can just be saying that I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel right, but we don't know what it is. Especially whenever it comes to elders this week. The transit this weekend to next week, just full clarity, it can show what is going on. It can find a way to come above the surface. But I feel like more of this week is the lingering below before a geyser burst. It does not feel like a volcano. Volcano, I'm thinking full peak. You know, we've had a buildup of something. I don't feel like we're going to have volcanic. I feel like this is more flat surface. We don't even know that there's something boiling below us until poof, geyser. Oh, there's a hot spot. There's a lot of hot spots. I should probably move. Making it sound logical. We all know that we would have a very frantic way of dealing with that, but still, move. There's a need to move because there's a different thing going on below the surface. And I feel like as much as we have a lot of activity to this week, because there's a lot, there is a lot, with exception to Monday and Saturday, there is a lot. It is either a lot of lunar or it is a lot of Mercury. Some days it's a mix of both, but there's a lot to this week. Beyond that, though, there's something below the surface that for some people it is what's either going to impact the new, whether we like it or not, or it is going to be the thing that disrupts what we thought we were trying to build, what we thought we were going to put together. Because we have this lingering energy of unfinished business that we're going to have to start to address. And there can be parts of this week that forces us into addressing just that. There's a lot to this week. Internalized secret transits, a lot of real clear one-on-one transits. And throughout the weekly transits, I'm really going to focus more on the one-on-ones. I want to be clear about that. I'm not going to put a whole lot of emphasis beyond this intro that there's something lingering below the surface. But there's also a lot of activity to this week too, because we also have 2 planets changing signs in addition to the eclipse. Mercury is going to go into Libra, And by the end of the week, Venus will move into Virgo. And that actually has a benefit. More, I'm going to say a hidden benefit, but not because of like the secret transit situation, but from a whole different reason. Once Mercury is in Libra and Venus is in Virgo, so it's going to be the secondary planet that makes this actually happen and go down. Those two planets will be in mutual reception. And that means everything that they rule will be working within one another. So, whatever Libra and Taurus rule for you will be coming through both Mercury and the Venus ruled transits. Whatever Gemini and Virgo rule for you will be coming through the Mercury and Venus ruled transits. They will actually be working with one another. And that's going to also start this week, and it's going to last until October 6th when Mercury leaves Libra. So there are benefits of like mutual understanding and mutual yearning and learning and putting some things together. And any growth that we have, I've said this before, it's very linear growth. We got the taco truck. I've used this example before, so I'm using it again just to kind of keep with the same emphasis. We get the taco truck, but we're not growing to a brick and mortar. We're growing a following around the truck of like, hey, this truck is here, 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 and here. Through its social media, we're building a following. All of our growth will be linear. It will not necessarily be exponential to next level. Next level stuff comes in 2026. We're going to have the noticeable mix of old and new simultaneously to these next 2 weeks. And how the old comes through and when it comes through will vary for everybody. And the depths of the old will vary for everybody, depending on what needs to come through and get closed out. But when it comes to the start of this week, we're going to get into the charts now. We are very clearly putting something into motion. So I'm starting this. This is Monday, September 15th. And I'm actually starting this at 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Why am I starting this so late? Because there are no real big direct transits to Monday, with exception to this one. And it's the one that all of last week we were building to, that was putting a connection together, pushing something into action. But I don't know that everybody's going to feel the action per se Monday evening, but more along the lines of like internalized clearance. That's the best way I can describe it, based off of what's going on. And that has to do with this sextile between Venus and Mercury. Now, all of last week, I kept saying, like, we're moving things into place. We're trying to create a momentum, but we're not getting like the big things accomplished per se in this week. We're just setting the stage for things. There's something about Venus's sextile to Mars that gives a green light. It gives a purpose. It gives a go ahead. And for a lot of people, there's a blessing to this. So this is actually a great way to start the week. I like this energy. Venus rules Libra, where Mars is at. Venus is in Leo. And a lot of Venus's energy over these last few months has been results. It's been the outcomes. It's been consequences. Whatever work you've been doing, like she's been bringing the results. Whatever stupidity you've been doing, she's been bringing the consequences. Like she's bringing results. Results vary based off of, again, personal karma and your own certain decisions, but she's been bringing a series of results in a lot of ways. And in some ways, she's bringing some kind of result. She's bringing an outcome, but she's also bringing it with the idea of pushing something forward. And I like her vibration, given that she's in the higher authority with this sextile, letting Mars know that something is shifting, something has the ability to move forward. There's an action or a desire that is getting granted. But because we don't have a whole lot of extra transits specifically to Monday, I don't know that we're taking a lot of action. Now, considering, again, I'm starting this at 9:30 p.m., You might question, like, well, are we getting anything accomplished on Monday? Sure, there's going to be lingering vibrations. There's going to be stuff from the weekend that's carrying over. A lot of us, we're going to have our personal planets getting activated by certain transits during this time. And if you're having certain personal planet activations, you're probably going through a lot more in your healing, or your healing, dealing, feeling, all of those. A lot of this vibration, even if you don't have like full activity going on, you can get some things going on Monday, or you can get some things taken care of on Monday. But I also feel like with the moon being in Cancer all day, some of what we're going through also has a lot of feels to it. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of things that need to get worked through. There's a lot of things that we need to quote, quote, take care of, the moon in Cancer. Um, there's a lot of creative vibration that can also be a part of Monday for some people, but there's going to be just some people that they need to get things off of their chest. And once they get them off their chest, it's like internally we feel like it's like a green light that, again, we can take an action, we can push forward with something, we can move in some type of way. Now, Venus, Mars, their sextile is building all day. It is exact in the evening time between 9:40 p.m. and 10:18 p.m. Central Standard Time. And that's why we started off Monday at 9:30. So just be aware of that. If you're in your feels, if you're in your emotions, work through them through Sunday and Monday. But once we get to Monday evening, there feels like an activation of something that has the ability to push forward, because we're going to keep talking about Venus and Mars going into Tuesday. It's just, this is going exact Monday evening. So we're going to keep it going. And I'm going to show you why we're going to keep talking about it as we get into Tuesday. Now, we're going to get this to roughly around 5:30. Between 4:53 a.m. Central Standard Time and 5:12 a.m. Central Standard Time, Chiron is going to hit a trine to Venus. So we're just past the exact here. I got Chiron 26 degrees, 12 minutes. I got Venus 26:13. We're just past the exact, but you can see that that is definitely in the vibration. And even Chiron is playing into whatever was coming through Monday evening. It just wasn't in the exactness yet, so I wasn't really quite talking about it yet. But a lot of this vibration feels like whatever we're able to, quote, quote, push forward, we feel like we have the green light to take an action. A lot of this action has like the overcoming of a wound. It's solution oriented. And Chiron speaks to that. How do I fix it? How do I heal it? If I go this route, will it do this? And it feels like whatever we're trying to fix somewhere between late Monday going into Tuesday morning has more than one energy involved, more than one situation, more than one element. We're going to keep it going. While this is going on, between 6:30 and 8:30 a.m., the moon is going to hit its actual conjunction to Jupiter. So you can see that right here. Here's the moon, 20 degrees, 0 minutes. Here's Jupiter, 2027. We're close to the exactness. That's why I'm bringing this up. Well, whenever we look at Jupiter, we're looking at the connection of like somebody that gives faith, somebody that teaches us lessons. Jupiter is the doctor, the guru, the teacher. We're looking for the support of the doctor. We are looking for the support of the teacher. We're having meetings about the health, about the well-being, and considering Chiron's in there too. Again, there is solution here. There's something about the healing process. There's something about what has been going on. And again, we've had these lingering things below the surface. Sometimes you need to talk to somebody about, I have this feeling something's about to happen. Tell me if I'm crazy or not. Let's talk about it. Like, tell me what I need to know. Tell me what I don't know. Now, as the morning progresses, between 10:33 and 11:08 a.m. Central Standard Time, so I'm going to put this at 10:30, Mars, still in the sextile from Venus, is going to enter its full opposition to Chiron. It's just the most exact in this area. We are in this vibration Monday, more activated on Tuesday because we have lunar transits 2 on Tuesday. I'm putting more emphasis that we're going to have a lot more busyness about trying to work something out, trying to, again, find a solution, trying to work through our emotions, work through our feelings, work through whatever we feel like we need to take care of. more actively on Tuesday than we are Monday. I'm not saying that you can't be working on it on Monday. I'm just saying it's more prominent in the energy on Tuesday. Mars is hosting Chiron, so that adds an extra element here of sometimes we need to understand, being the Mars person, how our actions hurt another. And Venus being in that kind of sextile trying to Venus trine Chiron, Venus sextile Mars. It's like because we have the extra person there showing the mirror, showing the reflection, giving you a taste of your own medicine sometimes. Like, all right, you don't like it when I, touch your crap. What if I was to go into your room and like take your collection? Why would you do that? Energetically, me taking your collection is not that different than you messing with them in this way. Oh, I didn't think of it that way. I didn't recognize it that way. I didn't realize that it would be getting perceived that way. And there can be something about addressing someone's actions, giving somebody guidance or an understanding of their actions and how their actions created the wound. Because again, Mars is hosting Chiron. For some people, the action Mars needs to take is one that they might not have normally taken. Like, this is the only solution that makes sense. You need to apologize. You need to go in this direction. You need to go do this thing. You need to do this one extra. We need to try this thing we've never talked about before. Looking at the benefit that we hadn't previously considered. And that can speak through a lot of the vibration. And I'm going to say this again as we keep going. Tuesday's got a lot of busyness to it because we ain't even close to being done. So we're going to keep it going. As we get into the afternoon, we still have transits going on. And even though Venus, Chiron, Mars, they're still very active in what they're doing, the next few things we're going to talk about is not necessarily going to all be about those two. There's going to be other planets involved. So between 1 and 3 p.m., I got this now at 2:30, the moon in Cancer is going to hit a sextile to the sun. Now, remember, the moon is starting to dwindle down. It is waning into that new moon eclipse. So the whole idea of like the waning energies, like we're trying to settle something in, we're trying to pull something in, we're trying to bring certain energies to a level vibration. And with the moon hitting the sextile to the sun, there is an awareness of somebody's ideas, their confidence, their actions. There can be some critiquing. There can be emotional consideration about how somebody else's actions have been considered very critical. Virgo's placements with the sun isn't always fun and whatever, especially right now with the sun being in Virgo and it's being eclipse season. Like, it's a very heavy kind of Virgo season. It doesn't always have to be that way, but this one has been a little heavier for more people. And when the moon hitting the sextile to the sun, like, there is a questioning of actions, but not in a forceful, judgmental way, but more along the lines of like, can't you recognize how you've done something? For some people, there's going to be awareness of a certain process that's starting to come through right here. But there is awareness in a multitude of levels with the moon hitting the sextile to the sun. Now we're going to go back to the Mars Chiron stuff. We're going to bump the screen now to roughly about 6:30 p.m. because I feel like that's enough for everybody. Okay, oops, 6:30. Between 4:30 and 6:30 p.m. Chiron is going to square the moon. Immediately following that, between 5 and 7 p.m., the moon is going to go through that square with Mars, reactivating the exactness of the morning's energy. And some people, whatever solutions, whatever actions we are taking to put something forward, again, there's more than one person involved. Sometimes we have to get additional outer insight. For sometimes we have to find out that somebody's actions did create a wound. And sometimes it can go really well in the sense of like, yeah, they apologized for being an asshole. Well, good for them. That sounds like progress. Hey, I heard that you said you were sorry to so-and-so. Like, yeah, well, Venus kind of made me. Whoever Venus was in that energy, like, yeah, somebody held a mirror to my face and let me know what my actions had done to somebody. Some of us, we need to push an understanding to Mars. Like, there's a reason you needed to apologize. There was a reason you needed to do something different. There was a reason you needed to take a step back. There was a reason you needed to fix the situation. And Moon hitting that square to Mars can be impressing. There's a reason, babe. There's a reason. Now, after the Moon hits the square to Mars, we're not done. We still got 2 extra transits going on. And I want to bump this kind of to the 9:30 range because I feel like this is going to be a better way to encompass both. And this is going to pre-activate something that is actually going to be fully active the next day. So hear me out on how I describe the next part. Between 7 and 9 p.m., so we're kind of past it at the 9:30 range, but I still wanted to use this time. The Moon is going to hit a sextile to Mercury. Now, again, we're getting really close to a Mercury-ruled eclipse. So be aware of that. But simultaneously, while the Moon is going through the sextile to Mercury, the Moon is going to go through a trine with Saturn. Mercury will hit a full opposition to Saturn on the 17th, the next day. But sometimes before we can deal with certain situations, deal with certain people, we need an outer person to make the connection. We need an outer person to bring some kind of awareness. We need them to gather certain information. Now I'm thinking Moon sextile to Mercury. We need to gather certain reports. We need to gather certain data, and it needs to be understood by the authority figure. And that is the Moon hitting that trine to Saturn. Now, Saturn might not initially want to believe it. They don't want to initially want to deal with certain things. They might not initially want to be focused on it. They might not initially believe. That's the main thing I really feel like it's going to be, until they can do certain addressing on their own. And that would be like the human effect of, like, you turn something into your boss one night. They don't know how to handle it. They need time to, 1, sleep on it, think about it, do something else. But 2, they want to hear the other person's perspective. And it's like the next day. So whenever we get into the 17th, whenever we get the full opposition, it's like that's whenever the boss sits down with the employee going, what is this? Did you really say this? Did you really do this? This evening's transit feels like the precursor to an actual meeting that would happen the next day, to setting an appointment that would happen the next day, to gathering information again, to provide it to somebody so they can handle something the next day. It feels like a precursor to activation that is coming at the end of a very, very busy day. So if you've had a bunch of other things going on throughout the day, of course, once we get to 9 something at night, we don't want to deal with more. So we have no, like, leave it in the inbox, but expect some type of like conversations somewhere Tuesday evening that directly are meant to impact and bring something to light going into the 17th. And that's the best way I can describe it. Now, the Moon is going to go through the sextile with Mercury again between 7 and 9 p.m. Saturn's trine to the Moon is going to be felt the most exact between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. We're going to bump this forward. We're going to get into the 17th. And as soon as we get into the 17th, the Moon is going to go into Leo. Once the Moon is in Leo, there is something I feel like is going to come to light, that's going to come into focus, that's going to get announced. There's levels that speak all throughout the week of like arrivals and announcements and new information. But there is something about bringing something to light that can either expose somebody and create judgment. What I'm adding into the effect is right after the Moon goes into Leo, it starts its transits between the sextile to Uranus, the trine to Neptune, the opposition to Pluto. And simultaneously, while it's going through the ding, 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 ding parts, we also have the building opposition of Mercury to Saturn. And that building opposition for some people is going to be the news of judgment. It is going to be news from an authority figure. It's going to be news from a boss. It's going to bring something to light, Moon and Leo, that is going to have a critical impact, and it's going to have a flurry of immediate energy that we don't initially know how to work with. We don't initially know how to handle. In some ways, we're not even anticipating it. Now, some will, because again, that last little bit of the moon in Cancer, like it hit that trine to Saturn and it hit that sextile to Mercury, and that had a precursor to activation to it. So some will know that there's going to be a meeting the next day. There's going to be something that comes to light the next day that is going to have not such fun reception. It's going to be rather triggering for some people, but it's not going to be triggering for everybody. So again, it comes down to what all work have we been doing over the summer? Have we been doing the personal work of overcoming a lot of things and letting some things go? Have we been doing the negative work and the stupid stuff where we have consequences on the horizon? Where have we been doing the work? Because it's about to show itself. Okay, yeah, back to this transits. The moon's in Leo. All right. This is how we start the 17th. The moon actually goes into Leo at 12:20 a.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, we've got it at 12:30. Right after this, between 1 and 3 a.m. Central Standard Time, Neptune is going to go through a trine with the moon. Neptune is illusion, delusion. This will be very crazy dream energy for some people. For other people, this is going to have to do with symptoms. There's going to be something about what's been going on below the surface that we haven't directly been able to deal with that kind of finds its way forward. And the thing is whenever you only have little bits of things coming forward on a regular basis, again, if you're too close to the situation, you can't see the dots. You don't even realize like there's how big the underlying situation is. For some people, you will. For other people, it's harder to see that. And I feel like for some people, this will be like a situational awareness of something that is going on below the surface. And we're like, I don't know if I believe that quite yet, but as the next few days to the next 2 weeks continue to go by, we become aware that we do believe something. And that's Neptune's trine to the moon. This can be a little bit confusing. For some people, it can be inspiring. Some, not all. For other people, it can have like how the effects of something brought something to light, the symptoms of something brought something to light, and then we have to act quickly and accordingly based off of the rest of the transits at hand, because we're going to keep going. This is all happening very overnight. So here's the deal. Not everybody has the middle of the night stuff, and the human effect would be it all takes place the very next morning, going into Wednesday morning. That would be the human effect. For other people, it's going to be a long night. And considering how many transits we had through the day on Tuesday, it's going to be a long night. There's a lot of activity going. All right. Between 2 and 4 a.m. Central Standard Time, Uranus will go through a sextile to the moon. So we can see Uranus 1 degree, 24 minutes. Here's the moon 1 degrees, 12 simultaneously until 4:30 a.m. So I'm just giving like a nice larger window, we'll say from 2 to 5 for both of these transits. Uranus will go through that sextile and the moon will hit that opposition to Pluto. Oppositions to Pluto can be very, very hard. There can be things about the trauma, triggers, frustration, the past, insecurities. Uranus, of course, is one of the hosts of Pluto, and he's playing into like we can have an unexpected situation that brings insecurities, issues, frustrations, power struggle dynamics. It can bring up past situations, considering both of these planets are retrograde. It could be something from the past coming back up, creating a frustration, creating an insecurity. Now, while this is all going on, Mercury is now at 28 degrees, less than 1 degree away from its full opposition to Saturn. And there is some kind of news, announcement, communication that we can anticipate coming from an authority figure with an authority figure. For some people, it is going to be an agreement that brings a whole new vibration moving forward. I want to get to the exactness of this. So we're going to get to about lunchtime. The Mercury-Saturn opposition is the most exact between 12:36 p.m. Central Standard Time and 12:48. I got it at 12:30. That's close enough. We're there. Here's Mercury 2845. Here's Saturn 2846. Just because it's the most exact in one area does not mean that we're not in the vibration all day long. And for some people, whatever came to light in the Mercury Cazimi, so that's going back to the weekend prior, somewhere between September 12th, 13th, and 14th. It was the most exact on the 13th, but I'm adding extra days for the human effect. Whatever came to light, whatever came into focus during that time frame can be feeding into this, because again, Mercury rules where this next eclipse is going to be. So all of these mercurial transits tend to be feeding off of one another. Mercury in this aspect can be talking to an authority figure, setting up some kind of agreement, some kind of arrangement. We can have judgment from an authority figure, from an elder, with Saturn hitting that opposition to Mercury. There can be news of certain things. Certain things can be getting filed and you have no idea. You don't learn about it until the actual eclipse. And I want to say this again, whatever starts to come through between the 17th and the 18th going into the 19th, these are foreshadowing precursor vibrations that speaks to what will come through in the actual eclipse. Again, an eclipse that's ruled by Mercury. So let's be aware of that. This can be a foreshadowing event. There can be one thing that is communicated that has follow-up in the following days, that has the full effect coming through in the following days. And this is the big vibration that kind of speaks to that first round, the first hit of the precursor foreshadowing of the days to come. Mercury hitting this opposition to Saturn. Now, there still can be some insecurities of things kind of lingering below the surface. That has to do with the fact that this is also in an opposition to Neptune, but it's not a direct opposition to Neptune. That's actually not going to happen for like another day and a half or so. So be aware of the certain lingering vibrations that we agree to in one way, or we understand in one way, or we get judgment of something in one way, that afterwards we're like, well, now what? Because there is going to be some certain types of confused vibrations kind of lingering below the surface, or misinformation that's leading to judgment that afterwards we're like, how do I disprove it? Or where did this information even come from? Or how did this get out? Some of you are going to get exposed, like I said before. And it really kind of comes down to, again, your own personal karma and what's been going on up until this point since the beginning of summer. Okay. Moving along. Oh, the Mercury Saturn opposition, we are in it all day long. This is also our last full day of Mercury in Virgo. So whatever this judgment between Saturn and Mercury is, or whatever this decision, whatever this agreement, as much as it's giving us previews, it's also letting us know a decision is made, that something is coming to an end, or it's because of the judgment. We can make it a decision for ourselves that something needs to come to an end, something needs to go away, something needs to move on. Now we're getting in the 18th. And at 5:06 a.m. Central Standard Time, I'm going to bump this to 5:30. Mercury is going to enter Libra. So here you get Mercury 0 degrees, 1 minute. Mercury will be here, a very quick time span, from September 18th to October 6th. So whatever new vibration is kind of setting the stage, is kind of coming into play, we're going to be working with it to line things out, to get some certain things started, to get certain things put into motion. Whatever that motion is, again, lateral movement is more so what we're going to see than anything else. We might not initially know what actions to take to deal with certain situations, but it is going to be something that becomes a part of the arrival of Mercury now in Libra. By the time we get into the afternoon, now the moon's going to be in Leo all day long, but we're not getting a bunch of lunar activations whenever it comes to the earlier parts of the day. We're more focused on the mercurial stuff. Mercury is going to enter Libra. Some of us are going to have certain people come through. They're going to arrive. We're going to get some kind of news, some type of information. And as the day progresses, again, it's something about it lingering that we don't know what we're doing with something. And I'm going to get this to the evening time. Between 5 p.m. and 5:12 p.m., I got it at 5:30. Mercury is going to hit this opposition to Neptune. So this is be the full opposition of Mercury to Neptune, where before we had like an indirectness of like something going on below the surface, something that we couldn't directly understand, that we couldn't directly work through, something that we didn't want to believe. And Mercury hitting that opposition to Neptune, some of us on Thursday, we're going to have a hard time focusing. We're going to be able to, going through the day, kind of feeling confused. Certain things are surreal. You hear certain things and it's hard to comprehend them. You want to be able to move forward with something, but it's almost like it's not helpful, or you're feeling lost on the potential of how you move forward. It's just kind of, some things are up in the air. There'll be some people that they're going to use this as a creative outlet. And that's a little bit more positive. And if you're using this for creativity, whether it's a writing creativity or some other type of like signage or marketing, this can go well. But if we're trying to do other more dominant things, this is not going to go well. Other people can have symptoms like flu-like symptoms, head cold-like symptoms, just widespread. My body's in a funk and I don't really know why whenever it comes to this day. And some of it can be like a physical reaction to what did happen the day before. Sometimes we don't realize like how much an energy, once it's unlocked, jolts, and like our body is reacting to a judgment. Our body reacts to certain frustrations. And that's a real thing. And you can have a full body reaction to what has gone on or what is kind of coming through. The other thing that this can be is the discovery of lies, fraud, deception, betrayal. The other elements of Neptune that I actually think that I've kind of skipped over in the intro, and I apologize about that. But the other big portion of what Neptune can represent can be lies, fraud, deceptions, scandal, cheating, stealing, theft, and that type of vibration. And there can be a actual discovery of that with Mercury hitting the opposition to Neptune. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Whatever starts to roll through the 17th, 18th, this time frame, it is giving a precursor, 16th, 17th, 18th, to whatever we're going to deal with in the eclipse. For most of us, it's a precursor, it's a foreshadowing. So keep your mental energy aware of things. It's going to help. Now, we're going to get into the evening time, later evening, close to midnight, because the next transit that's going to happen, it's going to start about 11 p.m. It's going to carry us into the 19th, so into Friday. So I want everybody to be aware of this next part, because I got two transits happening simultaneously. Between 11 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. on the 19th, Chiron is going to go through a trine with the moon. So you can see this here. Here's Chiron, 26 degrees, 6 minutes. Here's the moon, 25:46. But there's another transit going exact in this energy, and that is Uranus, and it's trine to Mercury. Now, that actually goes the most exact between 11:45 p.m. and 11:57 p.m. Central Standard Time. So for some people, what I'm explaining next, it is 100% a part of Friday. For other people, it is the late part of Thursday. And it really kind of comes down to, again, where certain anticipations are and what has been kind of unfolding. Because I feel like in some ways we had some precursors to part of this energy, especially that first part of like the moon being in Leo. But we're going to keep this going with where our focus is right now. Uranus is in Gemini. It's in Mercury's sign. And there can be unexpected news, unexpected information, things coming through in technology, or things that we discover while going through deep dives on the internet. You know how it goes whenever we're frustrated with something. So we're trying to Google search our research at midnight. Wikipedia all night long, that type of thing. But simultaneously, Chiron is going through a trine with the moon. Now, we just had a big Chiron thing earlier in the week. So some of us, some of those previous solutions have this indirect way of also feeding into the vibration in ways that we did not anticipate. For some, not all, for some. For other people, you're going to be working on something or going through something, or your mind is spitting. The anxiety, things aren't turning off, that mental energy, it's hard to sleep. And we're trying to come up with the solution. So the previous energy has nothing to do with now. It just comes down to, again, somewhere between late on Thursday, now I'm going to bump it to early, midnight hours of Friday. We're trying to find a solution. We're trying to get something handled. Now, again, the Uranus Mercury, it is exact 11:45 p.m. to 11:57 on the 18th. But as we continue into the midnight hour of the 19th, there's a reason I'm still talking about it, is Mercury is going to get us close to activating a grand trine between Uranus, Pluto, and Mercury. Right here. This is the closest we kind of get to it between these two planets. They're the three planets. And there can be elaborate news, elaborate information, again, with the idea that it's trying to give us solutions because the moon is still in that trine to Chiron. But for other people, there is like news, announcements, communication that is coming through that is very unexpected for a lot of people. We have events of certain things that are very unexpected for a lot of people. There is decisions being made that will be very unexpected for a lot of people. Now, if this is decision energy and not announcement energy, so decisions, you make the decision that you're going to end it with your boyfriend. Just humor me. You've made the decision, but you ain't told him yet. You're going to tell him over the weekend. But sometimes you have to make some planning in the background to ensure you can leave the boyfriend. It's like, I need somebody to help me move my stuff. I need to know where I can go. I need my dogs to be somewhere for a few days. Like, I need to have things in order before I break this news. And it's like telling your best friend and your brother at the same time, so I'm going to do it. And they're like, yeah, what do we do next? Let's get it done. Let's get it handled. Let's overcome the trigger. Let's overcome the trauma. Let's overcome the abuse. And we're kind of excited about it. And that just kind of goes into, again, trine between Uranus, Pluto, Mercury, the unexpected decision, news, information to help us overcome past adversities, traumas, triggers, frustrations, those kinds of lines. Keeping this going. Oh, between 2:30 and 4:30 a.m. the moon is going to hit its sextile to Mars, kind of reactivating the vibration of Monday and Tuesday. Kind of, but like a layer of it, the next round of it. The moon hitting the sextile to Mars is also giving awareness that there's some final actions. Please note how I said final actions that need to be addressed so something else can come through. Something that has been going on for a long time that isn't going to continue. Now, how that news is coming across is going to be different for everybody. But why am I saying it just that way? Because of Venus. Venus is again hosting Mars. And Venus is this very, very edge of Leo. As we go into the morning, she is going to leave Leo and go into Virgo. So she's the other planet changing signs. And she's not doing it on her own. Now, Venus is in a fixed sign. Fixed is long-term energy, long-term vibration. We are taking something that has been going on for a long time and we're transitioning, we're moving, we're reshaping, rethinking. There's a purpose of action that needs to come through. And again, some of this can speak back to whatever was going on Monday and Tuesday. Whatever in this is happening in these overnight hours with the moon hitting that sextile to Mars. Now I'm going to keep this going. Between 6:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit this conjunction to Venus. And what's going to be very, very interesting is in their conjunction, these two planets will move together. They will transition to Virgo together. So, got this now at 7:30. The moon is now in Virgo. And again, the moon is going to go into Virgo at 7:24 a.m. Central Standard Time. 15 minutes later at 7:40, Venus is going to go into Virgo. There's something about that little meeting between the moon and Venus coming to a close. Something is coming to an ending. Something's getting done for the very last time. We're dealing with something that has been going on for a long time, for the very last time. And then both of them transition into that new sign. Both of them go into Virgo. Now, as soon as the moon goes into Virgo, we are in eclipse energy. That means the 19th, the 20th, the 21st, even though the eclipse is actually exact on the 21st, as soon as the moon goes into a Virgo, we are in eclipse energy. Just get into it. And as soon as the moon goes into a Virgo, so too does Venus. They go in together. This speaks to, again, an arrival, new information. Considering now, Venus and Mercury, after Mercury just went through all of those transits these last few days, are now in mutual reception. Whatever decision, whatever communication happened those last few days with Mercury, there's a deeper awareness, there's other awareness, there's more things working together. And again, whatever Venus is going through over the next few weeks, all the way until October 6th, is also impacting Mercury, vice versa. Anything that Mercury goes through over the next few weeks is also impacting Venus and their arrival into this energy, along with the moon going into Virgo. Therefore, activating our actual Virgo eclipse speaks to things that we've been trying to line up over the course of the last month, going from moving in the shadows like we were during the black moon in Virgo to now having something more understood, dominated, solidified. Certain contracts, commitments, connections, legal filings being solidified over the course of the weekend as we go through the new moon in Virgo. We're in eclipse vibration now. Okay, let's get back into the transits. Oh, again, these two are moving simultaneously. I'm just going to go ahead and bump it to 8:30. Here's Venus, 0 degrees, 2 minutes. Here's the moon, 0 degrees, 35. Again, they moved into this sign within 15 minutes of each other. That is an arrival. Now, as soon as we get through this arrival of new information, some people are going to feel shocked. Some people are going to feel confused. Some people are going to be like, how did we get to this point? And that speaks through this Uranus square to the moon. Now, this is going to happen between 9 and 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. This energy right here. And that means like we have some kind of unexpected information, unexpected situation, unexpected dialogue, unexpected ideas that are coming through that, again, we might not have fully knew about. Some of that Mercury stuff, the precursor energy, we weren't all getting clued in. But for some people, whatever happens now that the moon is in Virgo, it's like the last few days' decisions, communications, agreements, contracts, all the mercurial stuff, it now has to be implied. It now has to be pushed onto someone. It now has a full effect, or it's growing into full effect. And for some people, if you don't know that there was another agreement here, or you don't know that somebody went and filed paperwork, this is like the paperwork's getting fully approved. And by the beginning of next week, you will know. You will know. You might not feel all of it right here. You might be one half of a situation of something that's being done behind the scenes, below the surface, that everybody is just not privy to. But whatever is going on over the course of the weekend directly goes back to that black moon in Virgo that happened on August 23rd. And there are more than one reason why I'm saying that. This Uranus square to the moon is just one of them. Let's keep going. Now, after all these morning transits, there ain't a whole lot else going on. We are aware of certain transitions. We are kind of dealing with the lingering vibration of whatever has uncovered over the last few days. But direct transit wise, for the rest of Friday, there ain't a whole lot going on. So we're sitting, we're stewing, we're simmering, we're trying to understand, we're talking some things through, we're going through our own paperwork, trying to get some things figured out. Where our minds are spinning, we're trying to put something there, and we are feeling judgment, weight, responsibility, frustration, because all of the day, all of Friday, the sun is building to its opposition to Saturn, but it's not exact. It's actually not even going to go exact until the overnight hours of Saturday into Sunday. But there is a building energy, and the weight of Saturn is always felt. And again, Saturn is back in Pisces. So we're dealing with some old stuff coming back up and how it's impacting the new. We're going to get into the 20th. Now, whenever it comes to the 20th, the transits aren't as active. Mercury and lunar transits aren't as active, but we still got some stuff going on. We're going to get into the morning time between 10:30 and 10:49 a.m. So I got it exactly at 10:30. Uranus is going to square Venus. Venus at this early degrees of Virgo, again, is activating the area of the sky, bringing results, consequences, reactions, judgment, previous vibration to the surface. Venus is bringing the results of the things we did from August 23rd into this new moon, even though the new moon is not exact yet. She's bringing an extra layer of emphasis here. Now, one difference between that black moon and now is Uranus is now retrograde. So whatever growth and excitement we were having with Uranus, like we don't have it quite the same way, but there is still the potential of putting some things in motion based off what work we've already done. For other people, the result of something is going to be like, oh, I didn't know that they weren't here anymore. I didn't know that something was going on the same way. Like we didn't know that there had been a change, but we're not necessarily opposed to all of the change. We just have additional questions. I want some additional info. Why did something go the way that it went? And it's almost like critical awareness and critical analysis. Now, the square between Uranus and Venus in that morning time does not necessarily have to be the most exponential thing for a lot of people, but it can still have like unexpected breakthroughs, unexpected consequences, unexpected results, unexpected information that still ties back to previous days. So be aware of that. Also be aware that the arrival of something new can lead to the consequences of something else ending over the weekend, but that's not directly seen in this moment. But this is one of those moments that it's like, we got something unexpected. Now we're questioning, I just liked going to that one salon because of the one hairstylist. Just humor me. I liked the one girl. She was great. The way she did my color. She always did my cut. It was never too short. It was always great. Blah, 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 blah. Humor me on that. And now we're not entirely sure if we would trust someone else. So it's like, I wonder if I can find her on social media and see what salon she's gone to. And I'll just go to that new salon. I won't continue to go to the old one because it's not about the salon. It's about the person. It's not about the full situation. It's about the way I like the look, the way it makes me feel, the way it comes through. I appreciate something in a certain way. And we're very critical of that appearance, of that part of the vibration, of the result. And we still want to be able to feel a certain way. So we start to teeter along the edge. I use a very mundane example of like, I didn't know this change had happened, but now that I do, it's making me question loyalties. And it can have mundane transitions as much as big energetic ones, depending on what's going on in your life. We're going to keep it going. The only other transit that's happening today is whenever the moon hits the conjunction to the south node. That's going to go exact around 6:15 p.m. So I've got it right here at 6:30. That's pretty close. The moon will hit the conjunction to the south node. So this is the body of the dragon, things that are released, outgrown, purged, left behind, something that is being completed. There's a keynote there on completed, of finally getting something satisfied. There can be still a lot of weight and responsibility tied to that, considering we're still building to that Saturn Sun opposition. Even though it's not exact right now, we're still feeling it. The timeliness, the awareness, the old frustrations, the old wounds, the things going on with bosses, elders, things along these lines. And there can be the impact to the body, considering, again, this is the south node. So the body of the dragon. So neck down situation. Okay, moving along. We can also have emotional components of us having to make the decision of something we need to release, let go of, purge, or just come to terms with us to no longer fighting. And that can be a bigger part of it. Now we're getting into the 21st. And again, the moon is in Virgo. Right after midnight, got it at 12:30 a.m. So between 12:32 and 12:56, this is when the sun will hit its full opposition to Saturn. Again, we're building to this all day on Friday. We're building to it all day on Saturday, but it doesn't go exact until Sunday. And there is something new coming through that is also a completion simultaneously. You're going to keep hearing a certain pattern in that regard, and we're going to keep this going. The sun will hit the full opposition to Saturn at between 12:32 and 12:56 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've put a lot of awareness into this. And again, whatever was going on between the 16th, 17th, 18th time frame, even into the 19th a little bit, that has been a precursor. That was pre-information, pre-decisions to what is starting to get committed to, what's starting to come to light, what is starting to come into focus when it comes to this eclipse, which is going to be exact on Sunday. We're going to keep it going. It's also a part of this Sun Saturn, so just be aware of that. It's a very timely karmic activation for many, many people. Between 12:30 and 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, so got this now at 1:30, the moon will also hit its full opposition to Saturn. Sometimes we make a certain judgment call, or we get certain things agreed upon, certain things come to light, and as soon as they are agreed upon, again, we got to tell an extra person. We got to bring somebody else in. Just so you know, your father and I decided. Just so you know, this is what's going on with Grandpa. Just so you're aware, we're here. This happened. And the moon brings that extra element of a decision, a situation has been released, uncovered. We don't quite realize just how impactful that's going to be. The actual new moon eclipse is going to go the most exact at 2:55 p.m. Central Standard Time. So put this to 2:30. We're just at the start of the sun moon conjunction. It's going to be felt between 2 and 4 p.m. So again, closer to that 3 o'clock area. So it's going exact at 2:55. But the actual new moon, that emotional revealing, critical emotional revealing, critical judgment revealing, new vibration setting in. But the thing is this is a new moon happening at the end of a sign. And sometimes something has to come to a completion point so the next part can begin. So the next thing can come into focus. So the next thing can be a part of the energy. Now I'm going to bump this forward at 4:41 p.m. Central Standard Time. I've got this at 5:30, but at 4:41 p.m. Central Standard Time, as soon as that eclipse is over, that moon moves into Libra. Now, again, this is an eclipse that is happening at the 29-degree mark of a sign. That is the end of a sign. Something has to get completed, and that's why I'm saying it this way. Completed so something else can begin, so something else can take shape, so something else can move into play. I'm going to go off on a mundane example right here. You can only do so much work to a house, and then at some point, it's done. It's livable. It's got a certificate of occupancy. You move in, construction process over, completion. so living process can begin. And that's the transition of the moon going into Libra, and even more so when the sun goes into Libra. That's going to go more on the 22nd, just so you're aware. But something has to be completed in the transitional sense. But this completion also speaks to new beginning immediately following. And that's why I'm comparing it to something like getting a house done so somebody can move in, and the next part is living in a house versus having a house under construction. That's the best mundane example that I can think of right now, is that something has to come to its completion, come to full agreement, come to full awareness, come fully into light. And as soon as it is exposed, as soon as it is agreed upon, as soon as we get that certificate of occupancy, the next step, the next round, the next stage can immediately follow and immediately begin. And that is going to be more going into next week, specifically that September 22nd forward time frame. But we're ending this week with this eclipse very much in a peak vibration. So let's keep this going with the rest of the transits of Sunday. Of course, the moon is going to go into Libra. And as soon as the moon goes into Libra, what does she do? She starts this opposition to Neptune. It is felt the most exact between 5 and 7 p.m. What Mercury did a few days ago in the quote, quote, precursor energy, on Sunday, the moon's going to do it all in one day. And that's why I was saying, I feel like Mercury is giving a precursor. It's giving a foreshadowing to whatever is going to come over the weekend between the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 3rd, 4th, going into next week. The moon's going to start it up again. So the moon's hitting this opposition to Neptune, telling somebody about something new that they don't know about, getting some type of new information that is confusing, that it feels surreal, we are not clear about, talking about lies, fraud, deception. And if we're going in that negative sense, we can talk about a certain belief or inspiration that we didn't know was kind of playing into a situation. So I feel like there's layers and levels to this week. And I do not feel like all of this is blindsiding. I feel like there is a precursor with Mercury earlier in the week. So pay attention to whatever was going on earlier in the week. The moon is hitting this opposition to Neptune immediately after that. Between the 6:30 and 8:30 time frame, the moon will go through its trine to Uranus. Simultaneously, it will go through its trine to Pluto. Something about the unexpected, something about the unplanned, something about the things that feel a little exciting. Also being a part of how we overcome the past, how we overcome the trauma, how we overcome the trigger. And again, I feel like this goes back to what we were dealing with the Mercury stuff just a few days earlier, because this grand trine of the moon to Pluto, Pluto to Uranus, Uranus to the moon, all in this vibration, speaks to loud, pronounced, communicated vibration. And again, if we made the decision to do something with Mercury, we're doing it strategically. We're doing it in a way it's like, I need your help with the dogs, with my stuff, getting ready so that way once my stuff is out and I'm safe, then I can break up. Then I can give notice. Then I can do what I need to do. And for some people, Sunday is going to be, then I can do what I need to do. For other people, it's like Sunday is like the emotional completion of like, the dogs are settled. I got all my stuff moved out. My soon-to-be ex has no idea that it's all going on, but I've gotten everything here. And when I'm ready, when I feel it's right, I can move and I can make an adjustment. Now, here is the deal. The 21st is a new moon at a 29-degree mark. All of this day is also the last day of Virgo season, a 29-degree eclipse, and Mars's last day in Libra. God, I wish I could throw confetti. I'm so sick of Mars in Libra. That's a personal thing. I'm a Scorpio rising. I hate Mars in my 12th house. I'm exhausted. there's three things that speak to something becoming completed by that eclipse, through that eclipse, by the weekend. And that's why I'm comparing it to a decision got made earlier in the week that we become solidified somewhere between the actual eclipse, which is Sunday, going into the start of the next week, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some of you are going to go through stair steps again in the process. You make the decision, you get the assistance, you get your stuff moved, you get some bills out of your name, you turn some things off, you do what you got to do. You're playing chess. And then afterwards, the other person is going to realize that they were playing checkers. The other side will come to full realization. And I feel like that's more next week. I feel like this week is a lot more things going on below the surface that need to come out, that need to come into focus. But I don't necessarily know that everything is going to come to light, come to the surface, come into focus, get announced through this actual week. The human effect is, for some people, it will, because we're just not going to mess around with it. I'm not going to let the energy prolong. I'm going to be like, oh, this is what I need to cut off, signed, sealed, delivered, cut. No problem. I'm a Mars ruled person. Not only that, I'm ruled by Pluto, cut. For other people, it takes you a little bit longer. But what if you can what if yourself to death sometimes? Don't what if it. There's something that is meant to come to a completion. Now, for some people, that completion can be we get everything negotiated, worked through, signed, sealed, delivered. And once we get through that eclipse, it allows for us to take something to the next level. And again, we're able to move into the house. We are able to post some big schedule of like, this is going to be all of our taco truck dates for all of the next 4 months. We've been negotiating things out for weeks, and now we got long-term thing, a long-term contract, this vibration, that vibration. Like we have something big come through, and that doesn't have to be negative. Again, if it's going to be movement, it's going to be lateral movement. For other people, the past is going to find its way back around. And no matter how much you're trying to get something going, here comes those little inklings of the past going, did you really think I was going to stay quiet? Did you really think that you were never going to heal from this? Did you really think that I wasn't going to say something? Did you really think that I wasn't going to find out? And there are things below the surface that can reach geyser levels somewhere between this week and next week. There are so many little transits in addition to the big transits of this week. Because again, we had 2 planets change signs. We've got the eclipse this week. We've got that full opposition between Mercury, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune, and then the actual Sun, Saturn opposition. We haven't got to Sun, Neptune. That's a part of next week. And for some people, parts of this energy can feel so surreal depending on the level of things from the past that do come back around. And for some people, it's going to be very confusing. For some people, it's going to be like, how did this happen? For some people, it's like, how did you lie to me? And the thing that's been going on below the surface has been like this untruth for a very long time, that the accounting misstep, the missing money, the missing whatever, the false information was only going to last for so long. And certain people, if you think you can hide your behaviors, humor me as I'm saying this, I'm not projecting, just being real. Some people think that if they lie and hide their behaviors, their shit will never catch up with them. But sooner or later, you get messy, you get lazy, you get caught, and your shit comes back to mess with you. This is not going to be a fun 2 weeks for people that have stuff in their closets. People in their closets, affairs in their closets, lies in their closets, because the things below the surface will have this way of just through the surface. having no clue ahead of time that this is going to happen. You might have felt it intuitively. You might have been like, man, this feels similar to whenever the last time I was around somebody, the last time certain things went down, the last time certain discussions were had, the last time I saw so and so. So and so might come back around. It could be just the situations around so and so comes back around. They have nothing to do with it. There is something below the surface. For some of us, it is a manifestation. I'm going to go with the positive aspect there. We know we've been building to something. Our belief system is there. We know we're going to get something going. We just got to get the right person involved. And as soon as they agree, it is going to be easy street. Let's get it going. It's going to be great. And the announcements that will follow will be like, this is what we're doing now. For some people, it's like the final little touches all around that little house. And as soon as it's all touched up, the paint is dry, we're moving in. And that's going to be that start of Libra season. We're moving. It's happening. We're doing it. We have this vibration of something getting completed and also simultaneously something new beginning. And it doesn't have to be negative for everybody. I do feel like it's a transitional completion to new beginning of we need to get this final stuff handled, final stuff negotiated, final stuff approved. The Saturn sun feels like an approval, that level of judgment from an authority figure, from a higher up. We get it approved. And as soon as it's approved, it's like, yes, now what? I didn't think I'd get this far. I don't know how much money we're working with. I don't know where to start, but I just know I got it. And it can go well. I don't want people to just get hung up on if your past is going to come back around. If it does, you've been warned. But if it doesn't, take it easy on the other people because there's going to be other people that this is not going to be fun for them. That element, though, with Saturn and Neptune and how their energy, whether directly or indirectly, is playing into the eclipse. For some people, whatever new thing is going to come through is going to have to do with the elder and the thing that has been missed, the symptoms that have been going on below the surface, something going on in someone's health and their energy of something that's been going on below the surface that we haven't fully been able to pinpoint. But it's like there's something again in the eclipse that allows for us to pinpoint and then start to move forward with the treatment. Now we know what the trigger is. Now we know what the problem is. Now we know the issue. We can start something else. We can start the treatment. We can start moving forward with something that we didn't know before. By reaching that completion peak vibration, it allows for something else to open up, be seen, fall into place, immediately going into next week, immediately afterwards. And there's a lot more logic, communication, and that level of activation going into this week, more so than the deep-seated emotional stuff that was stirred up in the Pisces eclipse. But that doesn't mean that that energy that got stirred up isn't still playing a part, because it is. It's a big week. Again, we're going to end on a high point. And that high point is directly impacting how we start next week. So there's that. I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.